It is showtime. We're live.
Hi, Dave.
Hey, how's it going, Ron?
It's going good. Good to be back
Yeah,
after a week later.
it's good to have you back. Yeah. I haven't had too many regulars like this, like consistently. Like Tony's been on a bunch, like weekly almost. And now this is your second time within a week.
Right. Wasn't expecting to come back so quick, but thanks to Tony, he's the one that kind of planted the seed
Yeah.
last week.
Yeah.
So thanks, Tony.
Yeah. Thanks, Sarge.
Thank you, Sarge.
So what's been going on?
Same old, same old. Good to be back to work. My bank account's happy to be back to work. My body isn't. Feeling after having a couple months off. Yeah, the body's talking to me a little bit. Let me know I have to go out and buy some new shoes and
Yeah.
maybe start working out again. But that's what I want to do. I actually was talking to Tony over the week about his product that he's been doing. So I want to get started on that after we see what happens on Wednesday. So hopefully I am free and not in jail after Wednesday. So
Yeah, we probably should give some context to that, right?
we'll absolutely get there.
Now you were on. When was the last time you were on? It was like May or something like that. It was in the spring.
I think it was a week before Father's Day, so July 8th ish, 7th, 6th, 8th, around there.
Yeah, you were on to share your story of alcoholism and overcoming it, and ended up relapsing again.
Yes.
And
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
And so you wanted to come back on to kind of talk about that. And
yeah, I actually, I think the first time I was here, we kind of delved off here and there and stuff like that. And even more the backstory. Both my parents were alcoholics. My mom, she drank herself to death. Hate to put it so bluntly, but she died. She passed away from alcoholism. She literally drank her body to stop. I actually was on a golf trip and gotten a phone call from the hospital, and they were like, "Hey, this is what's going on. We need to know if we want to put a do not resuscitate on her." And unfortunately at that time, and we'll get into more of this as well. At that time, I wasn't attuned to alcoholism and what addiction it does. And at that point, I wasn't speaking to my mom for 2 years.
wow.
And so I had told the nurse, I said, you need to talk to her brother about that. Because my mom and I are no longer on talking terms. So you're going to have to talk to her brother about that. Finished up my lunch. We had played 18 holes in the morning, and we are getting ready to play our second 18 holes. And I got another phone call, and the nurse said, "No, this is a little bit more serious than what you think it is." And so this was on a Saturday, and I was coming back home the next day late at night. And I said, "Will she be alive until Monday?" Because I was not cutting in my head with how our relationship was. I wasn't cutting my trip short. And said, "Can you keep her alive till Monday?" And they said, "Absolutely." So I showed up to the hospital Monday morning, and she was hooked up to every needle you could think of. I think they had about 7 or 8 IVs running through her to keep her organs going. And at that point, I had to make the decision to stop. And so one by one, they were stopping. They pulling IVs out, stopping the meds, stopping the drips. And it was not even a full day later, she had passed away. It was real early Tuesday in the morning. I want to say around 2-3 o'clock in the morning, she had passed away. And then my dad, he passed away 10 years ago this year, but his was due to cancer, but we don't know if the alcohol caused the cancer or not. So
What kind of cancer was it?
it was kidney and pancreatic. So what I've kind of learned, all signs kind of lead towards, I would say alcohol very much had a factor into that cancer. Just what I've learned and what I've read and what I've been told. And yeah, I think it definitely had a factor into the type of cancer he had. Um, he was for sure thought he had lung cancer because he was almost a 3 pack a day smoker.
Holy cow.
Yeah, yeah. It-
Savage.
yes, literally. It was nonstop. You put one out and I think even maybe at sometimes he would light one when he still had one burning somewhere else.
Wow.
And then back to my mom's side, her mom even passed away from alcohol. She drank herself to death too, from what I've been told by other family members, my mom and my aunt. So
Wow.
definitely runs into the family.
Yeah. And how old were you when you first started drinking?
I, like every other kid, had my first drink when I was in high school, but it didn't take. It wasn't my cup of tea. Um, and then, you're young, my young 20s, I started drinking a little bit more heavier. And then, especially when I got hired into GM, man, because that's what at that time you drank like a fish on the, you drink like a fish at work,
Allegedly.
allegedly. Yeah, allegedly. And then I took a break for a little bit. Um, I would say probably about 5 years. I didn't drink from I drink periodically, but not heavy. And then I would say probably about 30, it picked up again, but not heavy. Just, the occasional social drinking. And that it really, that's about how it went. I wouldn't say I needed it at that point. That didn't come until what I talked about on the last podcast when, back in 2015, um, I got caught having the affair and all that. And, the drinking really took off then. And then I became really dependent. Um,
Do you think
that
that you were drinking at that time as a way of coping, like as a
Yes,
coping mechanism?
yes, to cope with just the pain that I've caused to other people. And it's definitely you definitely drink. I was drinking at that time. It's a short term pain relief, but long term devastation is what it
Right.
is.
Right.
I wasn't coping in the right way. Pick up back in, I think I can't remember what we talked about, if we talked about this in the other podcast, previous one. And in 2019, drinking had picked up again. Um, Stress at home, stress at work. And it got so bad that at the end of 2019, I would say I was a living dead. I had a couple people from work pretty much picked me up off my floor at my house at about 2:30 in the morning, took me into the hospital. And at that time I had stopped drinking for a few hours, maybe 3, 4 hours, if recollecting back to it. When I got there, I was pretty much at a 3.92 alcohol.
Whoa.
Yeah, really, really, it was bad, really, really bad. And they held me. It was so bad that they actually put me in the psych unit for 36 hours just to make sure I wouldn't do harm to myself at that time too, because there were some statements that I had made. After that, I had went, holy cow, what was it? I went a little bit sober after that. Um, and then the following, no, a couple months I went sober, but the drinking picked back up the following spring. And that's around the time when that was COVID hit. Yes, COVID hit of 2020. Started drinking heavy. And then I got my first arrest. And I was drunk when I was arrested. and ended up moving out. The divorce had started at that time, and I was put on probation, and I was not ready to stop drinking at that point. And between the first arrest and while being on probation, I continued to drink heavy. Um, no judge or probation officer was gonna stop me. I was diluting my pee, even had a hearing for a probation violation, put me in jail for 5 days, got out, continued to drink, and then still drank and drank and drank, not really realizing the ramifications um, all the way around. Not only what I was doing to myself and everybody else. And then in November of 2020, got a OWI, second arrest, put me in jail for 50 days. It was a 2-month sentence. Put me in jail for 60 days. So you get good time for one every day. You get 6 days, or for every 6 days, you get 1 day off. That sobered me up quick. And then I had went almost, we'll say 20 months without drinking. And at that point, I was living sober, not in recovery. So I was pretty much just living without drinking. Always wanting to still have that drink, just didn't do it. And then July of last year of 22, had my first drink in 20 months. And then it was like the Niagara Falls. Just let it happen. Ended up catching a third arrest. And then at that point, I felt like I was just a garbage human being, a garbage dad, and really, really, really took off with the drinking. And I coped, I guess is I dealt with it the best way I knew how, and that was to drink. And at that time, I was drinking really heavy through August. So July, it picked back up. It picked up end of July last year, really heavy in August, really heavy in September. I was drinking so heavy, Dave, that twice in the month of September, I went to the hospital on the verge of organ failure. I don't remember the first time I went to the hospital, but I remember the second time. And it's crazy because I don't really remember to this day, I don't remember last September that much.
That's crazy.
It got that bad. I went in the hospital, and at that point, in the end of September, what I do remember, I hadn't talked to my kids in a few months. And it's not that I pushed them away, but they pulled away. And that's when it comes to stuff like that. And I'll delve in that with my mom and stuff like that. When I went in the hospital, they finally came back around. I think they thought that dad was going to pass away, so they better get up there. They had gotten calls on how bad it was, and I didn't realize how bad I looked. And they expressed it to me. A couple other people expressed it to me, and then even the doctors and nurses and stuff like that were, yeah, this is what it is. And then I got out, and that's when my first rehab was my first thought, or my first rehab was brought to me, the idea of it. And so I went October 6th of last year, was there for 28 days, and got out, had a aftercare program all set up, and never made it to aftercare. Never made it to aftercare. 5 days later, started drinking heavy again. And then after about 5 days, I knew I had to get back into rehab. Went back to rehab for 32 days. got out, had the aftercare plan all set up, ready to go. Never made it to aftercare. Started drinking on day 5 again. And then after the 5th day, got back into recovery or rehab right away. There was no 2-day waiting period. They said, bring them in now. Went back for 32 days. And then aftercare program set up.
Drink again.
Didn't even make it to aftercare again. Started drinking the next day. Went to Pine Rest for 5 days. And then after that, I'd went 7.5 months of recovery. But when I got out of Pine Rest is when I really delved into aftercare. Really started delving into the aftercare program of what they call IOP, which is intensive outpatient program. And is what that is 3 times a week, 3 hours each time for 18 sessions. So basically 54 hours of therapy after rehab. And then after that, it's called early recovery group. And then that particular program, it's twice a week, an hour and a half each time. And then I started seeing my therapist as well outside of there, who's an addiction specialist as well. Was doing really well, got through that. And then was really working on my recovery. And then, excuse me. And then I started figuring I had it and stopped doing the early recovery group, was just doing the seeing my therapist once a week. And I wasn't doing anything on top of that. And then mid-August hit, and on August 16th, hey Harry, how you doing, buddy? Harry, who just captioned on there, I met Harry at Skywood. We were there twice together. Really good guy. And so mid-August came up, and on August 18th, had a great day. Had a great day at work. Sunny out. Had a healthy dinner, turkey burger and broccoli. Ran some errands, and had a relapse. And that lasted until the following Friday. And unfortunately, you saw that. You saw a part of that, of what alcohol does to me, or what it can do to someone. Got back into rehab again, and I was there for, they wanted me there for, initially it was going to be 45 days. And then it got scaled back to 30, but I advocated for 35 because I wanted to make sure this is my last time. And when I was in rehab this time, I looked at my intake photo. And if Harry, if you're listening, obviously you are, you never want to look at that intake photo. My therapist, Laura, she's like, you want to look at your intake photo? And finally, after about the 3rd week I was in there, I was like, yeah, I'll take a look at it. And I didn't even recognize myself. I argued with my therapist, Laura. I was like, that ain't me. She's like, no, that's you. And I'm like, that ain't me. And she goes, no, that's you. Dave, I literally had to look at my t-shirt to realize it was me. It did not look like me. It did not look like me. And so, and now here I am. I've graduated. I got out September 29th. I've graduated IOP again. And now I'm in the early recovery group part of it. And the aftercare program I'm doing now, it's a little bit different one than I did before. So it's not twice a week now. It's just yeah, they didn't keep using my same picture there, Harry.
Said they just keep using the same long-haired passed out picture of me from the first time.
And then now I'm in what they call the aftercare group. It's just one time a week for an hour and a half. But to make up for that, I am doing an additional 2 smart meetings a week, which is an hour and a half. And I know that's what I need. And I know that. And here I am sitting in front of you. I didn't expect to really do this podcast again so soon, but Tony, Sarge, thanks, Sarge, kind of, got the seed going on it last week, and here we are.
Yeah, well, I mean, the idea that that you are on here again is, just because you just had a relapse not that long ago doesn't mean you shouldn't share
Oh
the
no,
experience.
I'm not saying that. I just didn't think we were going to do it so I didn't think we were going to do it again so fast. I thought it was going to be a couple more months later down the road.
Hey, Sarge is here.
Hey, Sarge.
Should have him join us. What is the moment like when because you went 7 months sober and you said you had a good day at work. I mean, everything seemed fine. And then next thing you know, you had a relapse. What is that moment like? I mean, did you have like a moment where you're walking through a grocery store and
it's scary
a
because
craving happened?
Like not even a craving happened. Nothing triggered me that day. And is what's scary about that and about the whole thing, how this happened, is that I remember pulling into the store. I remember walking into the store, and I remember walking back out and putting both hands on my steering wheel and I said, "What the fuck are you doing?" And to this day, I still don't remember going back in and buying.
Wow.
I do not remember going back in and buying the bottle. I don't remember the drive home. Now, don't get me wrong. I didn't drink and drive from the store. It's just that overload of dopamine and the overload from the transmitters to the receptors. I don't remember going back in and buying the bottle.
Wow.
But I remember going home and drinking, getting home and drinking. Wow. But after that, I don't remember shit. I don't remember nothing. I don't remember nothing.
Yeah.
For those 8 days or whatever, 7-8 days, I do not remember nothing. I remember bits and pieces of that week. I remember not arguing with Caitlin, but begging and pleading with Caitlin. I don't remember you coming over. We went to the hospital again. I don't remember going to the hospital, but I remember basically pulling the needles out of my arm because I wanted to leave.
We should have Caitlin here. Caitlin should be here telling everybody what it was like, because I remember her telling me that she tricked you into going to the hospital. She lied to you and was like, "We're going to my apartment or her condo to check on the animals." And you're like, "That's fine." And then you got in the car, you start driving, and you're like, "This isn't the way to the liquor store, wherever you were going." And then she had to tell you that you were going to the hospital.
I don't remember the hospital part, but I remember the end of it because I was ready to go. And they said, "You're not ready to leave." I said, "I don't care. I'm leaving." It's that bananas. And like I said, I guess you can attest to it because I don't remember you being there. I didn't even know you were there until Caitlin told me you were there after I got home from rehab.
Wow.
And then I think somebody else came over too. And I don't remember them coming over.
Wow. Yeah, it was strange to see you in that kind of way because, I mean, when I seen you, like you had mentioned, you didn't look anything like how you do right now. You look like an old version of yourself. Old. Like, I swear your hair was gray.
That's what it was, probably the same what I saw in that intake photo.
You look deflated.
Yeah.
You you look like a balloon that was losing air.
The intake photo I saw, my shoulders were hunched way over. My face aged like I looked like I was 80 years old.
Yeah, you did. Legitly looked 80. Just crazy.
And that's what it's funny you say deflated, because that was one of the terms I used when I on one of my first appointments with my therapist at Skywood. It's like I feel deflated and defeated.
How it's interesting. And addiction is interesting because you said that you would drink when you were in your 20s and you were fine. You weren't addicted. You didn't have the need to drink. But then you took some time off drinking, and then it wasn't until you experienced some trouble, like
some trauma.
some trauma and some things in your life where that's what triggered it.
Yes. The predisposition was always there too. Looking, learning some about some of the stuff, the predisposition for alcoholism was there. But it's definitely kicked off by trauma and pain.
Hey, Mama Sarge is here. That is awesome. She said, John 10:10, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. It's a Bible verse. What is it like to share your story and then have other people listen like this?
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, because I had to have a meeting at work yesterday, and a lot of people might get down or beat themselves up because they go to rehab so much, but I don't look at it that way. I look at it as I'm a fighter. I am a fighter. If I got to go 4 more times or 14 more times, I will. I'm not going to let this thing beat me. I will not. At the meeting yesterday, that person, she asked me, she goes, how are you doing? I said, I said, this is absolutely the worst 3 years of my life. And I said, the last year and a half has been the pinnacle of that worst year of those 3 years. And she goes, Ron, I got to commend you. She goes, I commend you because I know you've been rehab 4 times. She goes, but I commend you because you're not done fighting. She goes, you're fighting for this. She goes, I got a couple people in my family right now that are struggling with it, and they're doing nothing about it. And she goes, you're fighting. And she goes, I commend you. And when you hear other people say that to you, it even fuels the fire to even fight more. And I will never have this thing. I will never have it. And to this minute, I have a little part of my brain, and Harry, you could probably attest to this, and you can key in. I have a little part of my brain right now that tells me I can have 1 drink and I can manage it. But then I know, like, let's say 1% of my brain says that, Ron, have 1. You can handle it. And right now I'm justifying it. I am justifying that I can have 1 in that little part of my brain. But the other 99% knows that there is no fucking way. Like right now, as I look at you, Dave, I'm telling myself I can have 1 and manage it.
Well, it's not. Let's definitely not do that.
I'll be laying down in your bathroom floor.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about do you realize, or do you like realize in yourself that there's certain things that you can do that help mitigate some of that? Like is it like having some sort of routine, like a daily routine of like maybe like religion or working out, eating healthy? And do you find that like if you don't follow those things that it's easier for you to go off the rails?
I have to be I am very mindful of where I'm at mentally. Especially when craving and urges come on, I really articulate the situation.
And cravings, you mean like how you would crave like food?
Like,
is it the same kind of craving?
Like say if like I had a craving come on, I think it might have been 2 weeks ago. It was midnight on a Saturday night. I'm just sitting there watching Netflix.
So it's not like something that's induced by environment or anything like that. No. It's just like your brain wants it.
Well, so everybody's different. A lot of mine in the past was not like I could be out golfing with friends and watch them drink and I wouldn't get triggered. A lot of my previous triggers were negative self-talk, especially last year. Feeling like even when I moved out and when I moved out of the house into the apartment, feeling like a piece of shit person, like a piece of shit dad, not a good person. That's where a lot of mine triggers were coming in. And now I don't have that, but I still, the urges and cravings still come and go. And um, there's nothing, one thing that will set it off. Like last time I was here, Dave, and I told you about one I had about just throwing bar soap in the grocery cart. So it can come out of nowhere. And Harry can attest to this. Now that's his post from a couple minutes ago, but Harry, you can chime in with your post there. These cravings come out of nowhere. You could be having a great day. I mean, obviously it happened with me. And
So when
and at that, at that particular time, I got away from my routine my routine, what was keeping me sober. And I was delving into other things that I wasn't ready to delve into yet. And now I've set boundaries on myself to not do certain things until I get a certain time under my belt. Um,
like what?
um, Back in the middle of the summer, even before then, I started mentoring, and I had no business mentoring yet.
Like somebody else who is in
Yes,
recovery?
in recovery. I started chasing their sobriety. So I was putting their sobriety above mine. I was making their sobriety more of a priority than mine. I was I was calling these couple guys and like, because hey Ron, I need your help. Okay, I'm here when you need me. And then it turned into I was calling and checking up on them. And um, one of the guys, he started asking for money, and I would give him money. And the shit thing of it is he would be like, I need money for food. And the first time I was like, well, how much do you need? And then he asked two more times and the increments got smaller. And it's like, and I told him, I'm not going to say his name, but I told him, I was like, what are you going to buy nowadays for that amount of money? And so instead of being a coach, I became an enabler. And and at that same time, I was chasing his sobriety. And Harry can attest to this too. It's whatever you put above your sobriety, you will lose. So
Okay, so Sarge wants you to explain to the folks what you explained to us the other day about the parts of the brain and the pleasure part of the brain, the connection, the wavy lines versus short straight lines that we talked
yeah,
about.
absolutely. Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah.
So I was putting. We'll get there. I promise, Sarge. So I was putting stuff above my above. I was putting other stuff, making other stuff priority above my sobriety. Resentment started growing in, and at that point, I let complacency set in, and I firmly believe that's where the relapse happened. The relapse, the lapse or the relapse actually happens before the first drink because of the factors that go into why the drink happened.
Mm-hmm.
So looking back at it, I feel like the lapse actually started to happen back in June, maybe beginning of June. So now that I go
And
forward,
what sort of things did you stop doing that?
stop going to meetings.
Okay.
I was trying to mentor and be that crutch for other people.
Yeah.
Before I was ready. The one term you always kind of hear is make sure you got your oxygen mask on before you help anybody else. I didn't have my oxygen mask on. So going forward, before I help anybody and even take anybody's call, it's going to be at least a year and a half, 2 years before I take on any kind of mentorship role. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I had a guy that I was in in when I was just in the rehab this last time, he was there at the beginning of the year, or the end of the year. I can't remember which day it was, but he had texted me. We were kind of checking in with each other. How you doing today? How you doing today? How you doing today? And then I get a text from him. He's like, dude, you're going to hate me. I relapsed. And I'm like, I'm never going to hate you, bro. Are you okay? He's like, nope. I'm living in my car right now, and I have relapsed in drinking as we speak. Now, the old me last summer or beginning of summer me would have been, hey, dude, get your ass up here. I got an extra room. You can stay with me. And that didn't come out of my mouth because I know I can't do that. And I won't, because that was my downfall before chasing somebody else's sobriety. So my suggestion was to him was reach out to your pastor and see if the church will help you. It's all the help I could give him.
Yeah.
It hurt not to offer more, but I know I can't. I have to get me right first before I can help anybody else. And I am not there yet. And it takes it to this point, dude. It almost wants to bring tears to my eyes knowing that I have to say no to people who are struggling or hurting. But I know for the long term, for me and my family and my friends, I have to say no.
Yeah, it's most important to worry about yourself in this moment.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see here. Harry said, I lean on religion and AA not as much as I should, but that works for me. I have a strong support system as well that checks in constantly as well.
But
what kind of support system do you have? I mean, obviously you have friends, you have you have the IPO, right? Is that what it's called? IOP. Same thing.
The initial public offering. Or did you just watch a Wolf of Wall Street? Did you? I have that. What's called the aftercare group now, and then I have smart recovery meetings that I go to, and then my church that I attend, and then I have since reached back out to my peer recovery coach, which is like a sponsor, but without doing AA sponsored steps.
Have you done AA?
I have.
Does it work for you?
No.
Why not?
To each is their own. AA is a step-based, more religion-based program, and smart recovery is more on the science side. And I like the science side a little bit better because
what kind of things do they teach you in the science side? Like how the brain. Okay.
Yep. How the brain, stuff like that.
Okay. So is that where you learned all that stuff from?
No, actually, Harry knows a lot of this stuff too. They teach you a lot of how the brain operates while in rehab, and then just kind of looking at stuff since when I got out, and then just looking back at some of my notes, that what I've learned. And yeah.
So when you go into rehab, clearly like you're trying to sober up when you first go in, but what is that whole time like? You spend 30 some days in there, 28 to 30 some days.
Yeah.
What is it like? Are you going to classes?
Yes. All right. So the first few days, you are in what they call detox, or at Skywood Recovery, they called it urine assessment. So basically, they're just monitoring you big time for the first 3 days, maybe 4, depending on how bad you are when you come in. They're taking vitals is for the first couple nights. I think they might be taking your vitals every 2 hours during the night. And then they put you on Valium. You're on Valium because you cannot just quit cold turkey. You can actually die from it.
Yeah.
I don't know if Harry, Harry, I don't know if you mind if I put part of yours out there, but you can go into seizure mode, is why they put you in Valium. They put you on Valium for 5 days, and you're on it. You take Valium 4 times. It goes 4 times a day, 4 4 3 4 4 3 3 2 1, and then they kind of like taper you off right there. But it's to help you. It's to help you to make sure you don't seizure while you're detoxing, because you can die from it. Yep. So Harry, who's right here, he had 2 seizures while at rehab, and you can still have the seizures even while you're being medically watched. But if you go cold turkey, I'm gonna mess this word up, but if you quit cold turkey on alcohol and the benzodiazepines,
Benzos.
yes, we'll just say benzos. If you quit those cold turkey,
Benzodiazepines. Right?
yes, yep.
Yeah.
If you quit those cold turkey, you can die.
Yeah.
So, and then after that, at Skywood, you go to what they call residential, and then you're in class every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
What kind of things are you learning?
The first part of the day, you go through what they call process group, and it's to learn how to you go around and you tell how you're feeling that morning. Just you got to give 2 feelings, and it's not like any kind of like sobriety meeting like AA or SMART. I pass. There's no passing. They don't let you pass or say I don't know. There's none of that. So in the morning, you go through what they call a process group, and you have to give 2 feelings, and then you explain why you're feeling that way. And is what that's doing, it's getting you ready for when you do leave, you can be comfortable telling. So like if I'm not comfortable getting my feelings, expressing my feelings to somebody, what process group does, it gets you ready. So when you leave rehab, you can not only process your feelings, but express it to somebody.
Right.
I'm feeling this way. So it gets you. So if you're not used to doing that, you're used to doing it.
Is the purpose of that so you can tell people how you're feeling?
Yes.
So that you're not.
And what's funny is like a lot of people, when they get there, they're uncomfortable. I don't want to do 2 feelings. Well, you got to do it. So they do it fast. But it gets to a point, it's like, I cannot wait to do process group. And that's one of the favorite classes. It's not even class. It's one of the favorite groups. And then they only do it Monday through Thursday. So Friday, it's like, when Friday comes around, it's like, fuck, I wish we had process group. So everything there is with a purpose. And a lot of people don't realize that. And part of that process group is to get you ready for when you leave, you're comfortable expressing your feelings and how you feel with somebody. Because a lot of times before you go in, you're not expressing your feelings. You're holding that stuff in.
Which is why you're compressing, why you're drinking.
Yeah, because you're holding that stuff in. You're not venting that stuff out and getting it out to somebody that way. It's like a pressure tank.
Right.
And then after that, then you go into you'll have some different classes like ACT, which is acceptance and commitment therapy, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and then DBT, which is dialectical behavioral therapy. And it all has to come back with acceptance and commitment therapy is just accepting where you're at. And then the cognitive behavior comes with how to the thinking, the thought process of it. And then dialectical is under the same umbrella of CBT, but both of those are under the umbrella of ACT.
Mm.
And then in some of those classes too, you learn how it changes the brain, how it rewires your brain, and how and other things too, like alcohol it can change the DNA and gene strain in you. Like it changes your DNA and it changes the genes and DNA.
How so?
It starts the way it rewires your brain, the chemical wiring in your brain. Some of it will, when you quit drinking, will go back to normal, but some of it doesn't, unfortunately. And then that's what Tony was talking about right there. How now this ain't my words. This is how I understand it and how I learned it. Like your prefrontal cortex is where your executive decision making and all that, and and uh, your your thoughts are, and then behind that you have the limbic system, and under that you have the VTA, and then within all that, the limbic, you got your amygdala, not your medulla oblongata, which makes crocodiles smile, but the reward pathway is changed. So how a normal, what we call a normie, when 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 a person drinks, they it goes from the limbic system to the prefrontal cortex. And it's at a slow pace. And somebody like me who has abused alcohol the way I have, it goes straight down to the VTA, which is the ventral tegmental area. And so now now when my dopamine is released, it goes straight. Oh, there we go. Bring up that neuroscience.
Yeah.
And
All right, hold on, let me.
And so
Okay. So
and then oh, that just got loud. And then a lot of is what happens is with people, that reward pathway, like what you experience, you'll experience it a little bit slower than how the reward pathway works. Like it goes from that limbic system to the prefrontal cortex, more of it like in a straight line across. Where my dopamine is released, it goes straight down to the VTA, which is like dopamine on steroids.
That's crazy. Hold on.
And so, like I was explaining to Tony last week, like I was at least a fifth a day drinker. And if I was not I would drink at least a fifth a day, maybe more. And so from here to this point, if I don't drink for 20 years, I will go straight back into drinking a fifth a day. It won't start off with just a little. It won't start off with just a little bit. I will go right back into a fifth a day, if not more. Just because that's how that reward pathway is now rewired in my brain. Wow. And according to a couple of doctors
would that be considered like damage to your brain in a sense?
Yeah.
I mean, because you used to be able to drink with no problem.
Right.
And then now
can't.
You can't drink at all because
if I have one drink, it's balls to the wall Donkey Kong. I'm telling you, I won't remember what's going on.
Do you feel it getting worse and worse every time you relapse?
Yes. Yeah, like this one, how I looked, I know what I looked like the day of, and it looked like I look now, healthy. And what I looked like when I went there within 7 days, and I'm sure I don't know when you got there. I don't know what day you got there. When did you get there?
It was like a Wednesday or Thursday. Okay. Actually, it was Thursday because you were going in on a Friday.
Yep. So within a week, I went from looking the way I look now, maybe even a little bit healthier, because now I'm 2.5 months without a drink. I'm 2.5 months without a drink. At that point, when I relapsed, I was 7.5 months. So I'm sure I looked healthier. So within just a few days, I went from looking healthy to looking like I was 80 years old and just death. It was death on that intake picture.
Yeah. You're knocking on death's door for sure.
And each relapse has gotten worse. I don't know how many more I have in me.
Hopefully none. Hopefully you don't do it again.
No. No, and that's the plan, not to have another one.
Right.
But if I have another one, is it going to be my last one?
Right.
I mean, like last September, I remember the couple times I do remember when I get that bad into it, Dave, like, even mentally wise, there's a couple times last September I didn't give a shit if I woke up or not. I would say 2 or 3 times. I didn't care. I didn't care if I woke up. Didn't care. And as I sit in front of you right now, I cannot believe I had that mindset because I want to live.
You have purpose. You have a reason.
Right. But when I drink, I don't care. I don't give a fuck. It's sad.
That is sad.
Because I know there's a purpose for me on this planet. And I was just talking to a guy at work yesterday, and we were in, like, the hairs on our arms stood up. And I have a purpose on this planet going forward for what I've been through. I have a purpose, and I haven't grasped on how big it's going to be, but I know it's going to be big. And I have to be around for it. And I want to be around for it.
Part of the purpose is you sharing your story and your experience and your knowledge surrounding it.
Right. And I can't wait to learn more.
Just hopefully it's out of rehab.
Yeah. yeah. Right. And, and I'm always listening to stuff just because now I'm really enthralled on learning more about it. The Huberman Lab.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
That's a really good one on how the brain works.
Yep. He's a neuroscientist
Neuroscientist / professor from Stanford.
Yeah. Yep.
And just reading and learning. And once I get past what's going to happen next Wednesday or not is going to determine when I start doing what I want to do.
We should probably explain what that is because you've mentioned it twice now, but you have a possibility of going to jail.
Yes.
For a long period of time.
A long period of time.
And let's, you don't have to give the reason why, but let's explain like what the thought process is on why they want to send you to jail and if that would be beneficial or not.
Okay. Yeah, I'll share. I don't care.
And why it would be beneficial or not.
Okay, so I was put on probation a little over a year ago. Actually, if I would have stayed, if this relapse wouldn't have happened, I would have been off probation last Monday. That's how close I was to being off probation. But when I had this lapse, when I had the lapses back at the end of the year, beginning of this last year, the rehab visits, every time I avoided my probation officer like the plague.
I couldn't imagine why.
I was fucking scared to call her. I was just scared, embarrassed, ashamed. And then after the last one, something hit on that. Even though I went back to Pine Rest for 5 days after the last one, something hit me in that third one where I was ready to, all right, it's time. I'm going to run at my problems with full force. So when I got out in February, I had realized that there was a bench warrant out for my arrest for a failure to appear for a probation violation back in January, in the beginning of January. So I got out. I went to work for 1 day. And when I went to work on that day, I knew I was going to jail that night without even talking to anybody because I knew what my plan was. I went straight to the Union Center and got a hold of the committee guy and told him what was going on. And so I worked 1 day and turned myself in. And the probation officer looked at me and she goes, of course, slapped me on the wrist a little bit. But when I walked out, she pretty much said, man, you just got to stay in contact with me. I am here to help you, not hurt you. And I went to jail for 10 days. And when I got in front of the judge 10 days later, my probation violation was sentenced only for 5 days. So I did double the time. And so I got released pretty much right away. Stayed sober, was healthy in recovery, and then the relapse happened in mid-August. And then the first minute I could make a phone call at Skywood, which was I got there on a Friday, and I can't remember if I called her on a Sunday night or a Monday night. They don't while you're in rehab, you do not get to use the phones. They cut you off from the outside world. I mean, you can use the phones, but it's 15 minutes every few days. So I gave her a message. Hey, I'm back at Skywood. This is what happened. We stayed in touch with her even during. Talked to her with my therapist. Had a conversation with my therapist with her. Then I had another conversation with her with my I'm getting the acronyms messed up. One of the other people that help you, that's called the PCC, and patient care coordinator. And we had a conversation with her. And I got home September 29th, which is the same day our plant went on strike. This is the day I got out. I got home and I even emailed her late at night, I'm home. And then I met with her Monday morning, and we had a good conversation. It was good. What happened? Ron, what happened? You're doing so good. And I'm like, man, I said, if you would have asked me, a month ago, I wouldn't have been able to answer that. And I answered it for her, this is what happened. And told her what I am doing now. And I haven't even expressed everything, what I'm doing now differently. And we'll get there. But come a few weeks later with the probation violation summons, the recommendation came down that she wants to put me in jail for 6 months to a year.
Recommendations from her
to
the judge.
Now, yes, to the judge. Now, mind you, all my rehab visits, all my IOPs, aftercare groups, and everything that meeting I am doing, nothing is court ordered. I am doing it on my own volition because I am I will never beat this, but I'm trying to figure out how to live with this in a healthy lifestyle. And it's just bananas that she can make a comment to me like, I am here to help you, not hurt you. But her recommendation and what she said to me on that day when I had to meet with her on October 25th, she looked right at me, Dave, and said 3 times to me, you've been to rehab 4 times in the last year. Do you really think it's helping you? And I said, I am sitting in front of you alive. Yes, it's helping me. One of the last comments she made to me, she's like, obviously probation ain't working for you because you've been to rehab 4 times. So obviously probation ain't working for you. And I said, you know what? You're right. I don't like probation, but I said, once again, rehab is working for me because I'm sitting in front of you. And I said, I don't care if I have to go 4 more times or 14 more times. And if I have to go 14 more times, and if I make it through 14, I said, I'm going to be grateful and appreciative that I'm alive because there's a lot of people in this world that don't make it to the second one. And now I feel like, and I might be, I've had a few conversations with people and I know I get it. I violated my probation, but man, I am doing everything right. I'm not trying to play the game or play the system or pull the wool over anybody's eyes. Everything I'm doing is on my own. It's not court ordered. And here you want to literally throw the keys away. Yeah. And I've been in jail. There's no fucking programs in jail to help. You sit there and fucking watch TV and play cards, eat honey buns and trade your trays away.
Yeah. So the things that are keeping you sober right now, you won't have access to once you go to jail. You're even on medication to help keep you sober.
Oh, yep. We didn't even discuss that.
No.
I'm on medication right now. For you guys that are listening now or will be listening, there's medication I'm on. In the morning, I take medication to.
What do you take?
It's called naltrexone, and that is what naltrexone does. Is it curbs your craving? It curbs the cravings. So I'll still get the cravings. It's just they're very minimal when the intensity is minimal, and the amount goes down as well. The medication I take at night is called I can't give you the medical term. I'll mess it up, but it's called it's called Antabuse. I take that one time a night or one time a day, and I take that at night. And I don't know, but I've been told if you drink alcohol, any form of alcohol while you're on Antabuse, you will become instantly crab red, get heart palpitations, and start vomiting everywhere.
Oh my gosh.
So I am not going to test. I am not going to. No, in heavy addiction or heavy drinking, I don't care if I'm throwing up. I don't care, because that's more room for my stomach to take in more alcohol.
Right.
But I don't want to test this.
Right.
I don't want to drink anyway. So.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy that.
Is that something that you wanted to go on, or
yes?
Yeah.
Yes. This is my own doing. Because
why wasn't that suggested prior to this previous relapse?
You know what? Back in it was recommended back in at Skywood my first 3 times, but I figured I didn't want to do it.
You don't want to take medication,
right? I didn't want to take medication, but when it comes to relapsing, there you got your planners and your impulsors, and I'm an impulsor, so I could stop taking this Antabuse right now. Excuse me. I could stop taking this Antabuse right now, and it'll run in my system for 2 weeks. So I could be done taking it today and decide to have a drink a week from now, and it'll still have the same reaction as if I'm on it.
Wow. So you can't plan it.
So I can't. I can't plan it. So that's along with the IOPs and the meetings and the aftercare groups. I am on medication to help prevent another relapse.
So going to jail, you wouldn't have access to that as well.
At all. I'm telling you, the look in her eyes, she did not give a fuck. She did not give a fuck.
Do you think it's that she doesn't understand what addiction is like?
I think
she thinks you have a choice in the matter.
I think looking at her eyes, I think she thinks it could be a flat out choice, or it could be, it's just her nature and her position of her job. I think she might have to look at every probationer or client, however you want to say it, as the same. But in her line of work, it seems like she would be able to tell who's bullshit and who's not.
Right. Now I also wanted to highlight, because you had mentioned to me that your first DUI was in was that Ingham County?
Yes.
And then this is through Clinton County.
Yep.
Which is also has a privately owned prison or jail, right?
Okay, I brain fried. So yeah, the DUI, the OWI was in Ingham County, and this is in Clinton County. Yes.
Okay, right.
Yep.
And then I just want to point out that there's conflict of interest here, where a judge owns part of the jail, correct?
Yes.
And she had mentioned that when you brought up to her that you had gotten arrested, you got an OWI. It was a violation of probation.
Yep.
And that's why you went to jail.
Yep.
Well, you turned yourself into rehab because you had relapsed. Explain that. Explain the whole situation.
Okay. All right. So the OWI happened 3 years ago, almost to the day. In 10 days, it'll be 3 years ago. When the conviction finally came down, it was a year later. So November of 21, when the sentencing finally happened for that. At that point, I was sober for a long time. I might have been sober for almost a year. And so I got put on probation for that, and strong in recovery. And my probation was for a year, and that was through Lansing. And I was doing so well that my probation got cut in half. Probation officer after 6 months said, "You're done." He goes, "Man, way to do it. You did it." So when I brought this up to my current probation officer, I told her, I was like, that my second probation violation was due to an arrest. It wasn't due to me turning myself into rehab on a self-admitted relapse. I said I had no police contact. And she looked right at me and she said, "That was in Ingham County." and I'm sitting there trying to fight for myself. I'm advocating for myself, Dave. I'm like, I said, I was doing so well. My last she goes, oh no, she goes, well, your last probation you violated. That's how it went, Dave. She goes, your last probation you violated, and that's why you went to jail. I said, well, no, actually, my last probation I did so well, it got terminated early, first 6 months early, and that's when she looked at me. She said, that was Ingham County, though.
So the standards are different.
Must be, must be. But it's just crazy that they would rather incarcerate than help rehabilitate.
Right. Especially for somebody who is willing and is actively trying to find help. I mean, you on your own volition turn yourself in to rehab.
Checked myself into rehab. Yep.
Yeah, not turn yourself in, checked yourself in.
For 131 days, I was away from my family, my friends, work, voluntarily. Not court ordered, not one day, not 1 minute of it.
What was her response when you called her and told her that you had relapsed and you're in Skywood now?
I didn't get a chance. I didn't talk to her. Because the first time I could make a phone call, it was 9:00 at night, and I can't remember. Like I said, I can't remember if it was a Sunday or Monday. So, but I wanted to make sure I called her before I even called my kids, because I wanted to make sure that I gave her that message that I was back in. Because when she said, "Hey, dude, you just got to be in contact with me. Let me know what's going on. I'm here to help, not hurt."
Oh, that's so unfortunate.
And so it's scary, you know what I mean? Because here I am. I know I'm doing the right things, and I feel like I'm getting punished for it. And now, don't get me wrong, I get it. I violated probation. I know a little punishment should come, but 6 months to a year? Are you fucking kidding me?
6 months. I mean, that's enough time that you could lose literally everything. I mean, you can't. You're gonna get so far behind on bills. I mean,
right?
will you lose your job? Like, I mean, there's so many.
I don't think I'll lose my job, but fuck, I'll lose my apartment. I'll lose my. I don't have a house, but I'll lose my apartment, and then whatever else comes that way. And then, and not only that, when you walk out of jail, they hand you a bill.
Right. But so
that last time I was in jail for 50 days, or even when I was in jail for 50 days, it was a $1,900 bill, and they handed that to me as I was walking out.
Wow, that's crazy. That's a lot of money.
So if it comes down to it, and I got to do some time, I'm going to be asking for work release, because I have more importantly, Dave, I have a daughter to support. And I have a daughter that, I have a daughter that has a mom that needs help with supporting my daughter. And if I'm in jail for 6 months, I'm not going to be able to give my daughter that support. She needs medical coverage. And because of my job, I am in charge of that. So I'm going to be asking for work release if it comes down to that. When that recommendation came down a little bit, 2 days, I was actually on the golf course when it came down, and this is how strong I am in the recovery. I did not want to drink when that recommendation came down. 6 months to a year.
Wow.
Didn't even throw my golf game off that day. That's how strong I am mentally. I think a lot of people would have said, "What the fuck am I doing this for?"
Right.
But I know what I'm doing it for. I had no urge to drink. So I know what I've been through is working. All the rehabs, all the tools I'm utilizing, all the meetings I'm attending, the people I'm talking to, it's working. Because I could have easily bagged it in and not cared. Or not care, but just gave up hope. Let me rephrase that.
Right.
A lot of people, I think, would have gave up hope, especially after having that meeting with the probation officer a couple of days later, when she looks right at you and says, "You've been to rehab 4 times in the last year. Do you really think it's working?" If I wasn't strong mentally, I would have, all right, fuck it.
I mean, what would stop a lot of people in that moment from wanting to drink? Nothing. I mean,
Nothing.
if you know that it's a possibility that you could lose everything, that you're going to go to jail.
What stopped me from drinking that day? Because what
would stop a lot of people from wanting to drink that day is what I'm saying.
I don't know.
Most people.
I don't know.
How strong are most people in that situation?
I don't.
mentally?
I don't think not very. I don't think not very strong. My opinion, but I'm speaking for myself. I'm strong. I know what my purpose is. I know what's coming after all this. But I know a lot of people aren't strong, and they probably would have gave up. And I thank God that I know what my purpose is. That I didn't just mail it in that day or those 2 days or even up to this point. I had a fuck of a day yesterday because I had to go upstairs and sign paperwork. It threw me in a funk for the day because I had to. The day before, I was like, I'm gonna go in there and fight. I'm gonna die on my sword. Yesterday, I had to sign the paperwork for incarceration leave, and it just threw me in a funk for the day. I could have mailed it in yesterday, but I know what my purpose is going forward.
What do you think your purpose is?
It's to help. It's to help people, not only people, but families help people go through what I've been through and maybe help deter a death, help deter a divorce, or, like kids pulling away from their loved ones, whether it be brothers or moms or dads, because that's what my kids did. They pulled away, they had to protect themselves. I wish I would have brought that letter my daughter wrote me. And she flat out said I had to pull away to protect myself. And that's why my kids stopped talking to me, is because they had to protect themselves. That's why I did that with my mom, because I had to pull away because I got tired of being hurt by my mom. So I had to protect myself, my daughter. Well, I put myself before my kids there. I shouldn't have done that. But I had to protect my kids, myself, my wife, or my ex-wife now, but my wife at the time, Heather. I had to protect them guys. And I want to help prevent that. I want to help prevent a death, a divorce.
How do you think you'll do that?
I can't answer that right now. It's too early. I want to get past this phase first, and then I'll realize that after this. Right now, my priority is to stay sober for the next hour, day, and just get through what happens next Wednesday. Because it's funny how how fast the days go now, knowing that my freedom is literally coming to an end for who knows how long.
Right.
Whether it's 6 months or a year, or and that's another thing that us addicts do when we're in the middle of my addict brain still catastrophizes, and fortune tells. My brain will fortune tell and catastrophize. So, yeah, the recommendation is 6 months to a year, but the judge might look at all my paperwork that I'm going to be bringing in, because I got paperwork up the wazoo that shows how hard I've been working. And who knows, judge might say, all right, we're just going to extend your probation. Just stay the fuck out of trouble. Right. Stay away from the drink.
Right.
I can tell, and that I might not have to spend a day in jail, but that's where I'm preparing for the worst, or I'm expecting the worst. I'm preparing for the worst and hoping for the best.
Yeah.
Or expecting the worst and hoping for the best. Yeah.
This is heavy.
It is. And then, and on top of it, just with everything that's happened in the last 3 years, with all the arrest and all the lawyer fees, the lost wages, and this, and it's to even think that I'm gonna be gone for 6 months. I mean, my bank account's already screaming at me. I can't imagine. I'm really not trying to think about it right now, but I have to. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, I called my car insurance company today to see if I could, put storage fee or storage insurance and stuff like that. That way I can still keep the car insurance, or if I might have to park my car at somebody's house, ass backwards so the tags ain't pointing towards the road.
As much as this it's bad, and we obviously don't want you to go to jail for 6 months or whatever, but the worst thing that happens to you is the worst thing that happens to you. And I know that anything that you go through, I mean, you've already been through a ton of shit,
ton
a ton of shit,
of shit.
and it just makes you stronger.
Yeah.
In the end.
Mhm.
And so anything that comes your way, you'll tackle.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I said, I'm not I could have easily let this beat me over the last couple of weeks, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. I'm still gonna have a fun tonight, the next couple nights, go back to work. I'm gonna work Monday and Tuesday like nothing's going on, and I'll be in front of the judge Wednesday morning at 9:30. But yeah, I think what we were here to do today was, it's just addiction, in the thralls of addiction. People are gonna pull away, and it's not that you're pushing people away, but people are gonna pull away. And fortunately, man, I've got a solid core group of friends, like you, Koya, Alex, Caitlin, who else? Everybody that's out there, Julie, and you guys are a solid core group of friends that I can honestly call family for the rest of my life. And it feels good to have you guys, like when I text you, I'm about to start crying right now, man. I'm like, when I'm texting you guys at times, it's like, I feel sometimes it takes everything not to say every time I'm texting you guys, man, I appreciate the fuck out of you guys, because every time I get out of a rehab and I see you guys for the first time, it's a big bear hug. And, and I feel very fortunate that for my core friends, because you don't, even some of the guys at church, I know they love me, man. And I know you guys love me, and I love you guys right back. And I feel fortunate to have that solid core friends out of you, Alex, Koya, Caitlin, Julie, all them guys, and I know, like I told Julie a couple times, I was like, man, I owe you my life. She's like, no, you don't. She's like, the only way you repay me back is stay sober. And I said, you got it.
I understand her.
And same thing to you, like I did not know you were there. So, I owe you a ton of thank yous for helping Caitlin out that night, and I know there's nothing I can do to pay you back. But just to, figure out how to live with, I'll never beat it. And that's the thing, is like, I always thought I could beat it, but now I'm accepting the fact that I can't beat this, but I have to figure out how to live with it with a healthy lifestyle.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
I think that's what we all want to see you do. We all love you and care about you. We know that you're not this piece of shit. You're not like a raging alcoholic who just can't help himself, who just goes around beating people and whatever. It truly is a disease, and we can see it. We see how it affects you, and we see that you are actively trying to change, and you're trying to actively stay sober.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just every now and then it seems to take over, and then once it does, it runs, and you can't control it. And
unfortunately, this time, like when word got out that I had lapsed again, is like people are like, yeah, I'm not surprised. And that was one of the things in the letter from my daughter too. She's like, now when I hear relapse, I'm not surprised. And I'm like, fuck. That was one of the things. She's like, yeah, I'm not surprised when he has a relapse.
Yeah,
that's sad when you hear that from a 16-year-old.
That is sad.
But that's what fuels my fire to figure this out.
It's your purpose.
Yes.
Yeah. You want to be able to see your grandkids one day.
Absolutely. But I know, like I said earlier, I know what my purpose is. It's just I haven't figured out how big this purpose is going to be.
Mama Sarge said, "I'll be praying for you, Ron. I know it's hard to see it now, but it's going to be okay."
Mama Sarge, I know it's going to be okay.
I'm telling you, she needs to be like on this podcast.
She
needs to join us virtually.
I would love to see that. Just seeing the couple podcasts that you guys have had before, and the the things going back and forth, and
it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
It is.
It's cool to like have people engage. I really do enjoy these live podcasts because
then you can get this.
You see how many people are watching, which right now is not a lot, but 5 people steadily through this whole episode have been watching this. And then you get people engaging, which is really cool, especially for something like this where people can engage with you and like, you know,
Right. And it's awesome because Harry and I, we've been to rehab twice together, and literally for 2 months together, we were kicking it at Skywood. And but one of our the the first time I went is when I met Harry, and then the second time I walked in 12 days later, and we looked at each other, like, it's like, is that Harry? And Harry looked at me, and was like, is that Ron?
it's a
And
Home Alone moment.
yeah.
Harry, is that you?
And then Harry and I got really close on that second one. And I know Harry's been battling too, and I know Harry will get this as well. Harry's doing really successful right now with this. So
Mama Sarge said you'll get 150 who will watch it later. Possibly. I hope so. That'd be cool. And then Sarge said, I'm 3 blocks away from her right now, so I'm just agreeing with everything she says. Oh, shut up. Now they're going back and forth in the comments.
That's funny. But yeah, that first time I was on this, we didn't really get into the meat and potatoes of this, but man, if anybody listening to this later, I know, or there is help out there. There is help out there, and like you might think it might be over, but life ain't over, man. It does get better. It does get better.
It never looks like it gets better. And then when you're in that moment, it doesn't look like it could get any better. It just seems like it's going to get worse.
Go ahead. Sorry, Dave.
No, but like to your point, it always does get better because that's the worst it can possibly get.
Right. And like each time you relapse, or each time you lapse or relapse, it feels like the hole that you fall in is even deeper, and that the ladder to climb out is even longer, like a longer hike. And is what's funny is not funny, haha, but this relapse, even though it was just a week or whatever, dude, this one felt more rock bottom, because the reason it felt more rock bottom than the ones before is because I was doing so good. And it's like, what the fuck happened? And looking back at it, it's like, I didn't argue with nobody that day. Nothing happened. It was a great day. I had a great day at work. It was sunny out. Had a healthy dinner. It's like, why the fuck did it happen?
I mean, that's just a true testament right there that it's not it's not environmental, right? That it's truly a disease.
Yes.
And that it's something that you're constantly fighting.
Yes. I mean, now I carry something in my wallet where it's almost like it's just a small little placard card to help when I've got one in my wallet in the back of my visor, and I laminated it. First line says breathe. Next one says do push-ups. I'm gonna pull
Do push-ups.
So it says breathe, go for a walk, do push-ups, listen to music, call someone now, and you got this. So now I carry like this little placard.
Wow.
Wherever I go, I've got it with me. And then I got one on the back of my visor, and then I got one on my refrigerator. So when the impulse moments go, it's whether I'm in my car or your car, somebody else's car, I've got it on me at all times.
Have you had to do those things yet?
Nope, not yet. No. Nope.
So is the point to distract you from the thoughts?
Yes. You know what's funny is that one of the first, might have been my second therapy session with Laura at Skywood. She's like, what could have you done differently at that party store? And I'm like, well, I could have done this. I said I could have done push-ups in the parking lot, but I would have looked like an idiot doing push-ups in a parking lot on 127. I said, I would look like an idiot, Laura. She goes,
I would have done the push-ups.
Hang on. She goes, yeah, but Laura's such a good therapist. She just doesn't. Laura's the type of therapist. She doesn't give you the answer. She makes you find your own answer.
Mm-hmm.
And so my next time in, I was like, you know what? Next time I'm going to do push-ups in that parking lot, because I'd still be sober now. And I said, who gives a fuck if I'm doing push-ups on 127, I said, yeah, people drive by me thinking, what's that fucking idiot doing push-ups for? But 2 seconds after they're past me, they're going to forget about me.
Right.
But guess what? I'll be sober.
Right.
And there's other things too that I think played a part in this relapse. And Julie's probably going to kick my ass if I don't bring it up, because she brought it to my attention, is that all these last few years of relapses have been right around the same time my dad passed away. So I even worked on that in Skywood.
What about it is so significant? I mean, I know that your dad, obviously that's a big deal, but like, were you really close to him?
We had gotten really close right before he passed away, or a few years before he had passed away. We had gotten really close.
And it took a big toll on you.
Yeah. And so every year, August, September, I would drink. And so we brought that up. And then at Skywood, I did a few things to kind of deal with his death. Like his gravesite here, he's been passed away for 10 years. His gravesite, I have maybe visited his gravesite 3 or 4 times in 10 years. And then, so part of the therapy, or part of the process to help deal with his death, is I had to paint a rock in memoriam for my dad. And then this place is on an old golf course. So I went and put this rock, what would be the old first fairway, and I put it probably about where I figured where I would hit a good drive with a tee shot. And I buried it. I didn't bury it, but I placed it out there, and I visited that rock 5 times while I was there within 4 weeks.
Wow.
So I visited that rock and talked to my dad more times this last time in Skywood than I have his gravesite up here.
Wow.
So knowing that I'm healing with that as well now, and Julie had told me, she goes, I will know that you have kind of beat this when you can get past a month of September without drinking. And I didn't notice that until she had brought it up. And then I said something to my therapist, and
that makes sense, because last year in September, you were texting me the month that you didn't remember. And you're like, I was at work. I'm like, where are you at? And you're like, I'm at home watching. And you took it like a picture of watching Top Gun. I'm like, yeah, like, get your ass to work. What are you doing? And then you're like talking about how you were going to go visit your dad's grave. You're like, I think I'm going to go see my dad. And I'm like, is your dad alive? And you're like, no, he's been gone for like 10 years. But like I want to go see him, bring him some Mountain Dew in like a NASCAR or something. Those must be his favorite things. And 3 packs of cigarettes.
Yeah. So yeah, I even worked on with that. And I'm going to continue to work on that as well, with grieving that process. But it feels good now, because since Skywood and I started working that up there, there's a couple other exercises I had to do while I was up there as well. So I feel like I've gotten a little bit further in that grieving process with him. So we'll see. But yeah. I feel great right now. Even going to jail, I feel good. Or the potential of going to jail, I feel good. I feel good. I'm not going to let the probation officer beat me. It's not going to fucking happen.
All right. So Mama Sarge said, the deeper the hole, the more you learn. And then Sarge said, I need to step away, gentlemen. Going to watch the remainder on recorded show. Don't hesitate to reach out, Ron. What you and Harry are doing is nothing short of brave, truly brave. And then Harry said, some of my hardest moments are when things are going good. It's easy to stay sober when everything sucks.
That's true. That's true, because when shit is, you have more of that ambition to stay sober when shit is sucky. When things are good, you really let your guard down.
You're bored, right? You get bored. It's like anything.
Complacency.
It's like when you have nothing to do, it's easy to get in trouble, right?
Idle hands, or what do they say? Idle hands are the devil's playground, or something like that.
And then Mama Sarge said, read your Bible to your list of things to do to help. That will help you. Jesus and science work very well together.
Amen to that, Mama Sarge. I totally agree with that, man. There's been some great Bible verses I've learned over the last couple of weeks, going to men's Bible studies on Mondays. My church and another church, they kind of work together now on some of these on some of these men's groups, and there has been some really good Bible study nights and some really good verses. Don't ask me to click them off right now because I can't unless I got my book in front of me. But there's some really holy cow moments when you're reading the Bible. So yes, I do agree with that, Mama Sarge.
What do you expect to happen? I mean, do you think you're going to go to jail?
Fuck, Dave. I don't know, man. Part of me, 1 minute, part of me tells me I'm going to jail. The next moment says I'm not. Like I said, I'm expecting the worst and hoping for the best.
Yeah. If you don't go to jail, what do you think life's going to look like for you?
Good. It's going to be good. I know where the cracks happened, and I know how to prevent those. This time in rehab, I think a few people thought that when I got out, I was starting from square one, and I'm not starting from square one, which is awesome because it puts me in a better. I feel like this rehab puts me in a better. I don't want to say situation, but a better launching starting point going forward, because the first few rehabs a year ago, I was still trying to figure out what rehab and recovery was. You know what I mean? Like the first couple months I was going to get sober. The third month I really worked on recovery. So I was starting from square one. Now, like when I left, I felt like instead of like maybe walking in at square 50, I might have been at square 45. I might only took a couple steps backwards. So now I wasn't starting on square one. Now the launching point is even better because now I know where those cracks in the foundation of recovery were.
That makes sense, because I remember last year when you went into rehab, every single time you get out, you're like, all right, I'm out. And then like a day or two later, you'd be like, or whatever, when it right before you went back in, you'd be like, I'm going back tomorrow.
Yep.
Like, what? Why? But then this time when you went in, I knew you were going in. And then when you got out, you were out. You're out. You're fine. You're good.
So there was even, I think one point my therapist, like she was looking at me, he's like, I think you're good at like day 21. You can go home. And I'm like, no. She goes, that's how well you're doing right now. I said, I know I'm doing well, but no. Because I knew I wasn't ready to leave at day 21. I knew I wasn't ready to leave at day 30. Day 30, yes, but what's wrong with 5 more days?
Right.
Like I said before, people don't get these opportunities, and I need to make sure this is my last one, because the next one might be my last day on earth.
Right.
Fuck that.
Yeah, let's not make that happen.
I got a purpose, and like I told you earlier, dude, this is awesome. This is something I want to do. You know, like I was telling you yesterday, this is something I want to do. I want to start one of these eventually.
A podcast.
Yes.
What would your podcast be about?
Who knows? Start off with just
telling your story.
Addiction and recovery. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's get some people in there that, you know, that's the thing. The difference between AA and SMART is AA is pure alcohol. And with SMART recovery, it's all forms of addiction. Like the SMART recovery meeting I was on today, there was alcoholics, drug users, there was a gambling dude, and a pornographic guy. So with SMART, it's just the whole realm of addiction.
Right.
Or the addiction side.
Right.
So I think eventually that's what I would like to do, is just have all realms of it.
I think that's the thing too. When you have something that's creative and you can pour that energy into it, it takes away from the things. It takes away the desire to want to do other things that wouldn't be typically beneficial for you.
Right.
Because then you're focusing your energy and time on something else.
Right.
Something positive.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
To an extent.
To an extent, because you can easily let that consume you as well.
Absolutely.
Because I remember back in 15, when drinking really took over for a real hard bit, and then somebody confronted me, then I let weightlifting take over to the extent of where I was making people wait to go out to dinner. Like they'd be waiting on me. Like you have to wait a half hour. I gotta get these last little sets in.
I have gains to get.
So you have to really watch what you're doing.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I have a very addictive personality with a lot of things. Like podcasting's one, weightlifting's another, but I don't get addicted to substances at all. I don't experience that
right.
except for caffeine, and that's a drug.
That is a drug.
It is a drug.
I think it's even more addictive than nicotine.
I would
I
not be
thi-
a bit surprised.
I think caffeine is above nicotine. I
Yeah,
don't hold me to it, guys, but I do believe that is correct. That caffeine is above nicotine, and I think they might actually. I might be wrong, but I think caffeine might be classified as a drug now.
it should be.
I think it
It
is.
has the same responses as a drug.
It will, and that's the thing about food, porn, gambling. Um, it that dopamine release and that reward of that dopamine hit you get is it's astronomical. I mean, I was a gambler at one point, and what's funny is like I had as much thrill losing an $800 pot as I did winning an $800 pot.
Wow.
Watching $800 go, I had that same thrill as when I was scooping one in.
The gambling thing is so strange to me because I know somebody that is a gambling addict, and I went to the casino with him, not knowing what kind of gambling addict he was. And he was sitting at a slot machine, and he was doing like $100 spins, and he's just like, shing, shing,
$100 spins,
whatever. I don't
Holy
even.
cow!
They were a lot of. He went through like $500 within like minutes, and then it's just like a moment of just sadness when he lost it all. And I'm like, dude, are you sure you want to do that? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. But you could just tell the look in his eyes. Like he almost got like glazed over. Like he was just like so full of happiness in that moment. Like he was just sucking in everything, the lights and the sounds and just everything. It's so strange.
It's bananas to see. And well, I'm sure you've probably experienced it too with weightlifting. Or when you're training for your marathon, you have to hit that runner's high when
You
you're
get a runner's
training.
high, yeah.
You have to hit it. I know I hit it when I was training for a half marathon.
Yeah, you get a runner's high, but it's not an addiction. The high is not an addiction. And like when you're running, you're not necessarily chasing that high.
Right. It's not as intense as
Right.
that.
Right. There's something different that happens. And I don't know, maybe it's because you're expending your energy.
Could be.
I don't know. But
I have that same addictive personality as you have, because back in the early 2000s, at one point, I had never rode a wave runner. And within a year and a half, I had won a world title racing wave runners. I went from never riding a wave runner to winning a world title within a year and a half.
That's me with everything, which is amazing. For one, that you won that. That's awesome.
Because you want to be the best, like now. You want to be the best at it, like right now.
Yeah. It's a problem.
It is.
It really is a problem. You can't just do it for leisure.
But I am glad for people that haven't had to go through what I've gone through. And I feel bad for the people. Not bad. I empathize and sympathize for the people that have, and I can't wait to help eventually. But yeah. I will get myself right before I start mentoring. And like I said, I know what my purpose is, and I just have not grasped my hands into how big it is yet. And I know it's going to be huge, whether it's not only helping people, but man, I would love to start talking to people in like legislature and council people, or however it may go. Man, we have to rehabilitate and not incarcerate. You know what I mean? Because we're putting people. It's my story ain't the only one. I've heard it. I've heard it in rehab too, and I've read it and seen it on TV. People are getting put away for when they should just. We need help. Something else needs to be done. And we brought this up the other day in one of the meetings, and it's like, what can we do differently? I'm like, this question can't be answered in 10 minutes, but something has to be done.
Yeah.
This was in our meeting on last Monday.
Well, unfortunately, with the whole incarceration thing, money's involved.
Oh,
and
sure.
So the incentive to want to change that is not very high.
Not very high.
And that's the problem. Let's see here. Got to say goodnight to you guys. Good luck, Ron.
Thanks, Mama Sarge.
Thanks for tuning in, Mama Sarge. It was fun to have you. Look forward to the next live we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
We should probably wrap this up
Yep.
anyways.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, so we're an hour and 40 minutes into this thing.
Holy that was fast.
That was fast.
That was fast.
This is a time warp.
Yes. Thanks for having me, man. I wasn't expecting to do this so fast, and maybe we can do another one a few months down the road to we can explain what the results were after Wednesday.
Absolutely.
And whoever listens to this, if you know somebody or yourself needs help, reach out. Don't be ashamed. There's nothing. I know it might feel like shame and embarrassing and shameful, but man, there's nothing to be ashamed about with having an addiction to drugs, alcohol. If you know somebody or if it's yourself and you want help, it's there. Don't be ashamed about it. And then, there's more people than you realize that are dealing with this, that want help. And it's there. The resources are there. There's a lot of things out there to help. So don't just, if you're struggling and looking for help, don't be afraid to get it. I'm telling you, even though I've been to rehabs 4 times in the last year, it's, if I didn't go, I'd be dead right now. I know it for sure.
Yeah.
If I wouldn't be dead, I definitely wouldn't have a job. Right. I'd be homeless. Rehab does work.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here, Ron.
Thanks, Dave.
I'm glad that you went back to rehab and you're doing well now.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right,
everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. All right.
See ya.
See ya.